Hey, what's going on, folks? We have an interesting and unique show for you today. Newsmax reported that Black Lives Matter risks going bankrupt, and while that may be just speculation, what seems to not be is their report that despite paying out millions in salary, they're at an $8.5 million deficit. Last year, New York Magazine reported Black Lives Matter secretly bought a $6 million home, and the New York Times even reported after raising $90 million in 2020, Black Lives Matter has $42 million in assets. Are they really in the red? And is this the beginning of the end of this political organization that took advantage of racial tension and race-based media narratives? We'll talk about it. Then I want to talk about how Target is backtracking after their recent splurge into the LGBT kids zone after the conservative backlash. And I want to make the point that's actually empowering. People might be offended by it. I don't know why, but people have more power than politicians. Some of the biggest successes in conservative culture, media, and results in reality in the past 2 years hasn't been from Donald Trump, and it hasn't been from the Republican Party. It's been from average people, content creators, mothers, and the collective peaceful action to get results. So we'll talk about solutions, how to have success like that. And then at the end, I want to play a bonus clip of Ron DeSantis talking to Ben Shapiro, responding to Donald Trump's smear over his COVID handling. It's interesting stuff.
That was a difficult situation. We didn't have all the facts, and people can kind of understand, if you did things that may not have worked out. But we all have to sit here today in 2023, look back at March of 2020 and say Fauciism was wrong. Fauciism was destructive. Fauciism has set us on this path with the CARES Act and the Fed printing money, creating inflation, and creating some of the economic problems that we have today.
God bless you, folks. Dream Rare Podcast starts now. It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of the Dream Rare Podcast. And I want to let you know my camera quality is fixed. There was a problem. It was coming in at like 480 instead of 1080. So the camera should look a lot better than it did the last two. I apologize for that. I want to talk about a few stories real quick. And the first one is Black Lives Matter risking going bankrupt, according to Newsweek. I'm going to look into why they're saying that. It looks like they're $8.5 million in deficit, despite being reported last year by New York Magazine that they secretly bought a $6 million house and that they've have $42 million in assets. So we'll talk about that. Then I want to explain some positive stuff. It's going to be a chill day. I understand I've been kind of pushing buttons recently, but talk about some wins that conservatives have been having in culture and how we really can win, because I think there's a lot of promising stuff outside of the false paradigm and the constant Trump versus DeSantis fighting. I think there's some really positive things going on. Then at the end, I want to play this clip of Shapiro talking to DeSantis because I just want to talk about it. But let's start simple. Here's a Newsweek article. It says Black Lives Matter risks going bankrupt. And Hip Hop Wired also covered it and referenced the Free Beacon and Newsmax. So I want to read it. A national Black Lives Matter organization is at risk of going bankrupt after tax records reveal that the national organization has been paying out millions to executives while being millions in the red. According to the records, the leading Black Lives Matter Foundation is operating at a whopping $8.5 million deficit despite paying out millions in salaries. As reported by Newsweek, the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation financial woes stem from a 2022 tax year in a report first published by the Washington Free Beacon. The organization showed a loss of $961,000 in connection to a $172,000 security sale. The foundation is not the only organization that operates within the nonprofit sector in support of Black Lives Matter, but it is the largest of the sort. Once again, I'm just going to read two things from last year. They bought secretly a $6 million house, according to New York Magazine, after raising $90 million in 2020 off of all the George Floyd stuff. Black Lives Matter had $42 million in assets, yet they're in the red. So paying their employees millions of dollars and $8.5 million in the red, which is speculating some to ask, are they going to go bankrupt or not? I have no idea, but I will say this. I think a lot of people are waking up to who they really are. I think a few things have woken people up. I think the 2020 riots, I actually know somebody in Los Angeles, a girl who's liberal. She was liberal her whole life. We were always just like friends. And, I actually tapped her to do an event. She was a vegan and I needed like a meat eater versus vegan. So I was like, hey, do you want to do this event? Always super friendly, but she had told me what really woke me up is my whole neighborhood got destroyed and I was scared to be in LA, and I moved out of LA because they just destroyed everything. And just watching the media praising this as my entire neighborhood gets destroyed and people get terrorized, that was the waking point for a lot of liberals. Obviously, that was the waking point for a lot of conservatives, not just their own actions, but then the following years. I think Candace Owens' documentary, constant um, content creators such as myself and others who made videos just trying to, show people that, yes, this is genius branding. I think Black Lives Matter shows the power of branding. It's a great name. It's a great group. They tapped into Black Lives Matter. And then everyone was like, well, of course, if you hate, I remember this from even before Trump got in, when BLM started coming around and I was younger, there was this notion that I wouldn't say I fully bought into. I don't think I cared that much, but I semi bought into, where it was like, if you don't think Black Lives Matter, you're racist. And if you don't think Black Lives Matter more than other lives, you're racist. And like, this was really catching on with the youth. And I didn't even know Black Lives Matter was an organization. I had no idea what Marxism was. I honestly didn't even know what conservatism was. So genius branding from Black Lives Matter to create this kind of narrative over the last 5-6 years. Like, if you don't like us and you don't like our name and you don't stand for what we stand for, then you hate Black people. And it's like, it really made sense. I mean, obviously it didn't, but it's like, well, Black Lives Matter. Yes. Who knew that it was an organization that, is buying $1 million houses, paying millions in salary, and can't even keep the green line above red when it comes to paying stuff out? Not surprising, considering when you have no self-awareness and no self-accountability and everything you do is fine. Like, you could just be like, everyone's racist. It's like, hey, why don't you not go in the red? It's like, what are you, a racist? You don't want me to buy this $6 million house? When you're that type of person, I'm not shocked that their, company or whatever it is, a nonprofit, is imploding. And I've done a lot of research since then into Black Lives Matter. And I'll just say this, I've made a lot of videos on this. They've gotten millions of views on Instagram, millions of views on Facebook. I probably have over 10 million views with videos of BLM, and just trying to educate people, be like, listen, obviously lives matter, but when you frame it as a way, if you say all lives matter, then you're racist. If you love all people, but if you say the name of an organization that's more political than racial, then you're a good person. The whole thing was a psyop from the jump. And, the guy behind BLM, I've done multiple videos on, there was influence into that. It's all Marxist. It's all, they're bragging about their book being similar to Mao Zedong's little red book. I mean, the whole thing reeks of a political organization exploiting Black America, all America, to push an agenda that I believe is very dangerous and wrong. But if you push it behind the, mask of a Black person or owners that you have trained to be your person, then it's a perfect thing. And this is what they do. They use the rainbow people as a shield. They use Black people as a shield. They use all people as a shield. Sometimes they use children as a shield. So then if you fight back against their narrative, they say, well, what do you hate everybody? And that's obviously not the case. With that being said, too, before we talk about some of the rainbow people versus the conservative people, I think one of the underreported narratives around the rainbow trend of like everybody trying to make everyone gay and trans is how much pharmaceutical money is in that. There's so many commercials they're running being like, I mean, I guess they're trying to get it to everybody, but it's mostly targeted towards the LGBT. They're like, if you're going to be gay, you should take this pill to protect you from HIV and AIDS. And like, they're selling the crap out of this pill. I remember there's this one article a few years ago where this guy was like, I took the pill and got the disease from the pill, and now I have the disease from the pill, not even from sex. And here's why you should also still take the pill. I'm like, these people are insane. It's psychotic. But now if you're a trans kid, there's a lot of money in the transition. There's a lot of money in the pills you take before, after, etc. So I'm not saying this is the only reason they're pushing the LGBTQ agenda, but I really have to wonder how much big pharma's behind it, because they're going to probably profit billions of dollars. The more trans kids, the more pills. Just like they pushed Adderall and Ritalin when I was younger. Every kid has ADD. Like, my mom is a blessing. She said, no, my kid's fine. My kid has no problems. I mean, I had a problem, but I just couldn't focus. I was an athlete. I'm creative. I guess I was somewhat of a bad kid. I turned out good, in my opinion, but you get what I'm saying? They're like, oh, shove pills down their throat, shove pills. First it was Adderall and Ritalin, then it became like opioids and what was it called, Xanax, and now it's like trans. I wonder how much pharma makes from every trans kid. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that's the only reason, but it's something that people aren't thinking about that I obviously am, because you can't watch television or sports without seeing pill commercials. It's disgusting. I'm trying to watch NBA, pill, 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 and the side effects are always worse than the actual disease they're trying to help you with. I mean, it's disgusting. Watching television is disgusting now, and not just because I'm holier than thou. It's just the commercials are degenerate, disgusting. Like everyone, I feel like I'm at a hospital every time I turn on the NBA. It's gross. So, long story short, Black Lives Matter. They are filing. I'm sorry. They're not filing. They are, according to Newsweek, Free Beacon, etc. They are in the red, and they have a deficit despite paying millions of dollars to their employees. Is this the beginning of the end for Black Lives Matter? Who knows? They had a good run. They did a lot of damage. Their propaganda, in my view, did a number on this country. But I'm glad that they were able to buy a few houses and assets from it. At the end of the day, it's one thing to tap into racial tension to try to heal it, but in my opinion, it's not what they're doing. And there's a lot of people in this world of all groups that they want the chaos to continue because that's where they thrive. The second that people start getting along, the second that cities start getting cleaned up, there's not really much to do for them. So I'm not going to accuse any individual, but I do see a lot of people are basically race hustlers. We all know that. Second thing I want to talk about is something that I would consider a win, even though for conservatives, even though the New York Times and mainstream media is kind of trying to paint it as if the reason that they're giving in to conservative, I would say, boycotts is because of the danger as opposed to their bottom line. I think it's the money. Considering the fact how much did they care? There's these viral videos going around that are like, look at what conservatives did to Target, and I thought it was real at first. I was like, oh my gosh, it's like a Target just being absolutely massacred. And then I find out that video is actually from the 2020 riots, the George Floyd riots. So it's like did they make a huge stink when people literally were just massacring their entire store, just destroying it? What did conservatives do that's on that level? And I'm not saying it makes it right if you do it this way or that way, but they can't just say we did something wrong or maybe we overstepped. They have to act like they're in such danger, so now they have to take down the clothes. Like I don't believe it, but whatever. Here's a New York Times article talking about the Pride Month rescind because conservatives put a little pressure on Target. New York Times wrote, for years, Pride Month, the annual celebration for the LGBTQ Americans, has afforded companies a marketing opportunity to tap into the buying power of a group with growing financial, political, and social clout. Yet, while these efforts have always faced some opposition, brands and marketers say the country's current political environment, especially around transgender issues, has made this year's campaign more complicated. This week, Target became the latest company to rethink its approach after facing criticism for its Pride collection, which includes clothes and books for children that drew outrage from some of the right. The retailer moved its Pride displays, including rainbow striped collared shirts, yellow hoodies reading "Not a Phase," and baby clothing and accessories, from the entrances of some Target stores around the country and placed them in the back. Target said it was concerned about threats impacting our team members' sense of safety and well-being at work after some customers had screamed at them. So are they considered with their racial agenda or their racial activism when people literally just destroy their entire store during the George Floyd summer of riots? No, just when people yell at their employees, they're concerned with their safety. Long story short, I mean, kids, baby outfits. This is something that I would say Democrats are not being honest about. They don't necessarily have to agree, but when they're like, we've always done this every Pride Month, and this year it's just different because there's growing opposition to the trans movement. The reason that there's growing opposition to the trans movement is because they are getting younger and younger and younger and just more aggressive, more aggressive, more aggressive. I don't know if it was North Face or one of these companies. I have to look it up, but it's like they're doing like everything's got to be a drag queen. People can't just go hiking. It doesn't even make sense. Like a drag queen is usually doing some sort of like show at a bar or a club. Like, why would that coincide with like hiking gear in a mountain? You know what I'm saying? It's just like it's everywhere. It's all the time. It's the kids. It's in Disney movies. It's gone so much further. that even if you agree with the Democrats and the liberals, I think a fair journalistic assessment would be, we've gone further, 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 further. And the further we push and the younger we push and the more we push it on the kids, then like conservatives are having more and more of a problem with it. And then you can have the debate. This is in a perfect world, which we don't live in, if everybody was honest. And then it's like, but we agree with where we're going and they don't. But they're trying to act like this all popped out of nowhere. Like conservatives just woke up, like gay people got married, and now all of a sudden they're just like having this crazy different opinion than they had 5 years ago. No, the left and the corporate media has pushed so insanely far that it's just like weird. And people obviously like are like, yeah, dude, you're going too young. Even when Caitlyn Jenner came out as whatever during the SB thing, or it's like, oh, I'm a woman, and then it's like next week they're like woman of the year, whatever. They weren't going so hard at the kids. It's like that was kind of not a thing. That became a thing, and then it became everywhere, and then it became every store, and then it became younger, and then it became younger. And it's just a little strange. I mean, when you're talking about like 7 and 8-year-olds, you're like, my kids you groom them to be that. And I don't use the word groomer. I'm not calling everyone a groomer like everyone else, but it's like, if a kid's 5 years old, like, why do you think I like the Power Rangers? Because my mom let me watch television. I like the Power Rangers. Yeah, there were other shows on, but I'm a product of my environment. I speak English because my parents speak English. If my parents spoke Spanish, I'd speak Spanish. If my parents spoke, Chinese, I'd speak Mandarin. So that's like what a kid is until they get to a certain age. And pretty much every parent knows that. Yes, there's a little bit of nature versus nurture. It's nice to let your kids choose sports and stuff. But when it comes to sexuality and like what gender you are, I'm sorry, but if you're under 10 years old and your kid just magically pops up, I don't think they just got that like naturally. If they would have had conservative parents, I don't think they would have done that, or even neutral parents, that aren't pushing kids either way. So, it's gotten a little crazy, even for the most, I would say, tolerable, moderate person. I think it's a winning issue. I talked about it the other day where I follow a lot of sports pages, and the issue that conservatives take is the issue that most people actually take. It's just Republicans are so fake and annoying and cringe that nobody likes Republicans. I vote Republican and I don't even like 99% of the party. So if I don't like these people, what do you think normal kids, like everybody hates Republicans because they're all cringe and annoying. There's like 5 interesting ones, but really it's just like a clown show that only people that watch certain media are actually into. So you got to like lie to yourself and sedate yourself in order to even pretend these people are cool. But whatever, I get it. It's politics. But long story short, I think this kind of shows, and I know this might upset a few people, but I think this shows that people actually have more power than politicians. Despite the false rumors and false interpretations of what I'm doing, I'm always trying to empower people outside of my opinion and what Trump or DeSantis is saying. I always try to tell people self-accountability, self-awareness, change yourself to change the world. If you really want to be happy, including myself, when I'm having a bad week, it's not everyone else's fault. It's my fault. It's like I'm consuming too much Twitter. I'm arguing with people too much. I could be aware that every day I'm not perfect on stream, but it's like, sometimes it's my fault. It's not, you can't control what everyone else does, but you can control what you do. And that's the message that I kind of try to deliver. And yeah, that's not maybe the most popular message. It's easier to be like, just hang out with us and vote with us and talk like us and do everything we do, whether it's right or wrong. And we'll just fight the other side and we'll become the same. That kind of like gets people riled up like it's the Oakland Raiders game. But the truth is, you do have power over your own life. Donald Trump's not going to, get you a wife, or, Donald Trump's not going to raise your kids. Like, you got to do all that stuff. We all have to do this stuff in our own life. So I always try to preach that message. But even when it comes to political stuff and cultural stuff, I think that this proves that average people, mothers, content creators, citizen journalists and activists in the last 2 to 3 years have had more massive wins in culture than Donald Trump or pretty much any Republican. I would say there's maybe a few Republicans, like Montana will pass something, DeSantis will do something, but really, this Target situation, although they're crying that they're saying that they feel threatened, I don't think so. I think that they see the front line. Target is a company that everybody shops at, especially in middle America where you don't have a lot of stores. And I'm not targeting out middle America like, oh, they only shop at Target. I just know what it's like to go around the country. And when you're in a city, you have a lot of options. When you're out in the middle of nowhere, Walmart, Target, Costco. You know what I'm saying? I just went to Icy Straight Point Huna. There's 700 people, and their way of getting stuff is every couple months they take a ferry over to Juneau, and then they go to Costco and they load up their truck and they go back. I mean, that's an extreme example, but Target is big all over the country. But Target's really big in, I believe, middle America, where there's not a lot of competitors to something like a Target. You go to a Target, you can get anything. So when they go so far down this far left wing agenda when it comes to, gender ideology, is that really who you want to be as Target? I mean, what are you, like a television show with RuPaul? Like, you got to go that far and that aggressive? I mean, I understand where you're coming from, maybe, but that's a bold move for a business like you. You're supposed to deliver these goods. And if you piss enough people off, they might want to go to Walmart instead of you, or they might want to order on Amazon. So you understand what I'm saying is they went far, and people are giving backlash. And I checked the stocks myself. Target's not doing great, and Bud Light is not doing great. And what I said before, just to kind of rehash it real quick, because people said, Anomaly, you said Bud Light wasn't going to go down. I never said that. I said when they were doing it the first week, Bud Light was like up for the week, up for the month, up for the year. It was doing fine. And I said eventually it probably will or could go down. But right now, conservative media was like posting pictures out of context and being like, look how down. It wasn't even down. Now, it's like over the course of months, they're going to start suffering, even if they lose 5 or 10% of their base. So the point that I'm trying to say is these wins have come from the base. And even though Trump supporters and DeSantis supporters just fight on Twitter all the time, it's Trump supporters and DeSantis supporters not being political or annoying or cringe, just doing what they do has had more of an impact than their support in Trump or DeSantis. You get what I'm saying? I'm watching people on Twitter like Cat Turd. He's like, I'm not going to vote for DeSantis if he wins. You don't want my support. Acting like, I don't know how old that guy is, but it's like he's acting like a kindergartner. And then you got DeSantis people like, I'm not voting for Trump. And they're like fighting. And it's like, at the end of the day, your boycott of Target or Bud Light did more systemically to fight the culture war than your support of Donald Trump, your worship of him, or your allegiance to DeSantis. And I think this is a positive thing. People might cry about this, but it shows that people have power when they actually do something. If you give $100 million to Trump, or you give $100 million to this group, that's a lot of money when everybody gives it at once. A dollar goes a long way. So, I think that Bud Light and Target is sending a message to major corporations more than anybody has in a while. And I would say it's working. Someone said, dude, you just said you were wrong about Bud Light was going to suffer. You can go back and listen if you want to think that is fine. But I just said when accounts I was following, it was 2 days after the Bud Light, they're posting screenshots that it's down 2% when the whole market's down 2% and it's up 5 or 10% in the week. I was honest about that. If I post a picture of a stock, like I say, like Facebook's down to 150 and it's not, but then it goes down later, that still was wrong for the current time. I didn't say it couldn't go down or wasn't going down. I just told the truth. But this is politics. It's like people like to lie and fib a little bit when it's their way, and they think that fibbing is like fighting the left. That's not what I said. I just said when people were saying it was down a month ago, it really wasn't. Now it actually is a little bit, and it's trending in the wrong direction as the market's trending in the right direction. So is Target. With that being said, I think it's a positive thing. I don't care if you think I'm wrong or I'm right. Just take control of your own life and make a move. And I think these are the things that unite people, is when, even though they're fighting on Twitter, they all have similar values. So in their personal lives, they all act the same way. And this has a huge success. I love that. And I think that the movement's going to be fine without Trump. I think that the movement is going to be fine before or after DeSantis, if he ever gets a chance. Like, I believe when people actually come together and believe in something and stand for something and shop in certain ways, things will change. They're already slowly starting to change, some for the better, some for the worse. But that's like the big solution. And my next story is going to play into it a little bit, but I don't see it as, and this is just my view, I don't see it as DeSantis running is dividing so many people. If DeSantis versus Trump fighting each other makes people act like kindergartners, that's not Trump's fault and that's not DeSantis's fault. That was always in you somewhere waiting to come out. It's not like they made you act that way. People are acting kind of weird, and they're not focusing on what matters. But I'll say this, when it comes to culture, when it comes to boycotts, when it comes to systemically changing America, people have more power than Trump or DeSantis. You have more power over your life. You have more power over what corporations do when you have a spine, when you have a soul, and when you say enough is enough in some form of your life, even if it's a little bit. If everyone does a little bit, that goes a long way. And I think this is the first time that it's happened. I made a joke about Bud Light, saying that Bud Light is I never drank it because it was terrible, which is true, and I think it's funny. But yeah, I mean, dollars speak. Congratulations, doing it without me. I can't say I helped the Bud Light or the Target boycott because I don't shop at either one of those before or after. But definitely the message is coming through, and I think that it's working. So, I think that's a positive thing, that people actually do more than the politicians that they worship. In fact, not to take a slight jab, but I believe it was Caitlyn Jenner and Don Jr. that were telling people that, they donate to Republicans, or hinting that, suggesting that, maybe they should lay off the boycott. So it's like, not only did Trump not start the boycott, but it's like they almost really tried to stop the boycott. People don't see that. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're doing all this stuff to actually change corporations, and you got the figurehead of your movement running around the country hawking vaccines like Bill Gates and just being like, to me, it's a total clown show, and I don't take it that seriously anymore. But some people really do. Either way, believe in yourself. Know you have power. Someone said my face is getting fat. I know I'm a fast now. I've been working out. I'm getting stronger too, but I think my face is getting a little fat. So I think I'm gonna fast for like 48 hours, drink water, do some push-ups, because I'm not even fat. My face is getting fat though. I don't know if it's because I'm getting old, or maybe I'm sucking down too much high fructose corn syrup or something, but not really. I don't know. I don't care though. Anyway, I want to play this clip of Ben Shapiro talking to Ron DeSantis because I think it's interesting. People have heard me. Obviously, I don't agree with Ben on a lot of things, but I do think that he's right here. Trump has been parroting Democrat COVID talking points about deaths in Florida, which is exactly what CNN and all the Democrat media did. They're like, everybody's dying in Florida, but they didn't talk about per capita. They didn't talk about all Xmas mortality. They didn't talk about age. They didn't talk about PCR tests. They didn't talk about how they're testing. They talked about nothing. It's pure propaganda. That's who Trump is now, I guess. That's how he wants to beat DeSantis. And Shapiro asked DeSantis about it, and I thought his answer was great. And I'll explain why. Let's watch.
Today, the president actually attacked you by suggesting that Andrew Cuomo had done a better job in New York, which is sort of a shocking thing coming from a president who's declared that he is the enemy of the left when it comes to COVID. Andrew Cuomo, of course, did not do a better job. He's been citing statistics suggesting using sort of absolute numbers of people who died per state, as opposed to looking at population adjusted, which of course seems deeply dishonest just on a statistical level. What's your take on those attacks?
They're very bizarre. I mean, first of all, Florida had less excess mortality than California or New York. Part of that is because states like California had excess mortality derived from the lockdown policies, which is really, really avoidable mortality. But if he thinks Cuomo handled it better, that's an indication if something like this were to happen again, he would double down and do what he did in March of 2020. That was a difficult situation. We didn't have all the facts, and people can kind of understand, if you did things that may not have worked out. But we all have to sit here today in 2023, look back at March of 2020 and say Fauciism was wrong. Fauciism was destructive. Fauciism has set us on this path with the CARES Act and the Fed printing money, creating inflation, and creating some of the economic problems that we have today. So if you could do it again, would he do the same thing? I sure hope not.
Just the way that DeSantis talks, I don't trust him. He talks like a politician. It's like eye contact's weird. And obviously I've talked about Shapiro. We disagree on a lot of stuff. This is the sort of thing that kind of confuses me. Let me know what you know in the comments. So outside of what DeSantis just said, for years, I've had my own brain. I've done my own reporting. I've broken away from the hive minds of the left and the right. And during April, May, June, July, August, we could count till 2021, 2022. I've done hundreds of videos. Anybody who's followed me from there can say I've done hundreds of videos tapping into the data of COVID. I've talked about PCR tests. I've lost a lot of money doing it and got censored. I've talked about in Cleveland or the Cleveland News, I can't remember exactly what it was, in Ohio, how they count cases. And they weren't even using tests in a lot of states to count cases. So when it comes to the COVID case rate and the COVID death rate, they're all suspect in general just based on how they're counting. And then the media wasn't talking about per capita. If you live in a town of 500 versus 5 million, the deaths matter. You know, you got to do per capita, not just that. And then also there's stuff like excess mortality when it comes to lockdowns. You get what I'm saying? It's like if you're only counting COVID cases, but you're not considering that lockdowns killed some people, these are not accurate numbers. So long story short, before Trump or DeSantis or anyone said anything about this stuff, I don't really care about them. I know what I'm talking about with this because I've put in thousands of hours of research and thousands of hours of video content doing this type of reporting, studying for years. So when Trump comes out and just takes a rehashed Democrat talking point saying, you know, Florida has so many deaths and like COVID deaths, and, you know, he did worse than Cuomo. That's not true. That's the same thing that CNN and MSNBC were saying when DeSantis decided to turn course and open up, and Gavin Newsom decided to close down. And they were doing this little like Florida versus California. The media for years was like, Florida should shut down because there's too many deaths. They were calling him Death Santis. I've done dozens of videos about this saying these are not true. So now that Donald Trump says what CNN and MSNBC used to say, which I've already done 15 videos to debunk, do people expect me to just be like, oh, yeah, that's true now because Trump said it and I can't like DeSantis? It's like the truth is the truth, whether Ben Shapiro says this or this. If Ben Shapiro says vaccines are amazing on one day and then he says vaccines, I don't trust them on the other day, my stance of how I feel about that doesn't change based on what Shapiro does. I don't play opposite day to disagree with him. And I certainly don't agree with him when he lies or, in my view, isn't accurate. So this is like the weird part. What DeSantis just said there, where he's like, I'll give people a few months if you didn't know what was going on at first. And you can be critical of lockdowns and DeSantis if you're Ian Smith or you're Basilicos or you're somebody who really never caved. Like Ian Smith criticizes DeSantis, and it makes sense. It's like Ian Smith went way harder than DeSantis. So when Ian Smith says DeSantis, it wasn't that good on lockdowns, I agree with him. It's like, yeah, compared to you and others, he wasn't. And that's valid criticism. And I love it. But when Donald Trump says it, it doesn't make any sense for multiple reasons. One, he's using Democrat talking points that never made sense in 2020, and they still don't make sense now because it's completely out of context. And also, DeSantis has admitted that he was wrong for the first few months, and he even said there, I was figuring it out, and now we have to look back at March and say we were wrong. And Trump has never said that. That's the whole issue. I don't even want to like DeSantis that much because I don't, but it's like, Donald Trump 3 years later is still lying about this stuff. He's got people he worked for. I forget his name, Peter Navarro. He's on Twitter saying Trump got fooled by Fauci and Birx. And it's like, that's what you say. But when has Trump said that? When has Trump come on TV and be like, I got fooled by Fauci and Birx? He doesn't, because he still sounds like Fauci and Birx. This is the dynamic that I feel like people don't understand. I'm not trying to rehash old times forever because it doesn't make sense to do that. But when you have an entire movement of influencers and politicians and people that have admitted that that was a mistake, but the leader of the movement, who's the front runner, won't admit that, he sells vaccines way too hard still, and then looks back on somebody who did a better job at something he did and says that it never happened, it just doesn't make sense. None of this stuff makes sense. And I don't even know how to fit into this movement anymore. It's like, do you want me to erase my memory like Men in Black and just be like, I don't know anything about COVID data. So when Trump says what CNN used to say, then I'm just going to say that that's cool and that makes sense. It doesn't make sense. What makes sense is looking back on it and being like, yeah, we didn't know what was going on for a while. It was a tough gig. You know, I did what I had to do, but in hindsight, we'll never do that again. I haven't heard that from the Trump camp, but I just heard that from DeSantis. So long story short, I don't trust him. I obviously don't trust Ben Shapiro, but there's this weird, I would say, battle going on. And I talked about it with the Target stuff where people are acting psychotic towards each other over this fight and acting fake. They're just like faking it because they've told themselves in their head, this guy's the real one, this guy's the fake one. So I gotta defend whatever this one says, even if he's lying, even if he becomes CNN, even if he starts becoming more left than I really am. I got to really say why. And it's just confusing because then I just sit here and and say exactly what I've been saying for years, and it's still accurate. And the same people that were praising me last year for saying this stuff are now bashing me. You got people like, oh, we know what? I did this reporting in 2020. I said that this was a lie in 2020. Everyone said, good job. I said this statement was a lie in 2021 based on the data, and everyone claps. Now that I say it, people get mad at me because Trump said the other thing. I don't understand. And when it comes to splitting the party, I've heard a lot of narrative where people say him running splits the party. I mean, if people can't watch a competition of two politicians that probably don't care about you that much compete over donor money, they're both getting hundreds of millions. If people can't watch that and act somewhat civil and not just completely act like children, it's not Trump's fault and it's not DeSantis's fault. Trump didn't make you do that, and DeSantis didn't make you do that. This is inside of people all the time, just waiting to come out. So it's like, everyone keeps telling me that he shouldn't have run. He should have just waited. Why? Why should somebody that's taking Democrat COVID talking points that say they listen to Chris Christie to hire the FBI director, why should that person be unchallenged? Not only should that person be challenged in politics, that person should be challenged by influencers. That person should be challenged by right-wing journalists. That person should be challenged by interviewers. But he hasn't been challenged for the last 3 years. People have been telling me to shut up since 2020. It's like he's pushing lockdowns. I say it's bad. People tell me to shut up. He's pushing the vaccine. I say it doesn't make sense. People tell me to shut up. DeSantis did it too, and I called him out when he did it. It's just like the difference is after like 5 sales, he's like, all right, I'm on the other side. And then it's like Trump just kept going in the wrong direction. He still has never changed. He doesn't care. So I don't understand the dynamic of like, why shouldn't that person be challenged? That's our movement now. I feel like in 2018, the movement was like crushing, raw truth. Now the movement's like, I don't know. You get what I'm saying? It's like, no, if he says what CNN and Democrats said to shut down Florida, then, you're not allowed to disagree with it. Paul said, so pick one, damn it, screaming at me. I've told people if the election were tomorrow, who I would choose, but clearly people don't want to hear my opinion. My whole life doesn't revolve around what Trump or DeSantis does. To me, that I get that that's what some people do. They're like professional fans and stuff. You go into that voting booth and I'll go into that voting booth and you get to make your choice and I make my choice and our vote counts the same. But I also do journalism. I also do hip hop music. I also do news analysis. I'm not DeSantis and I'm not Trump. I don't have to agree with everything that they say. If DeSantis says the sky's orange and Trump says the sky's purple and the sky's blue, I don't have to choose between orange and purple. I do news analysis. Someone said you really have it out for Trump. I really don't. Someone said you never make mistakes. You're not acknowledging the issue. I'm not saying Trump made a mistake in 2021, 2022, 2023, and I will never forgive him for it. I'm waiting to forgive him. He just hasn't changed. He's now getting worse on COVID rhetoric than he was 2 years ago. DeSantis said, yeah, it's okay that you messed up for a few months. Everyone forgives you, but just get on the right side now. And Trump just can't do it. He sounds like CNN now. So what you want me to do is say, CNN COVID propaganda is good now because Trump is saying it in order to try to make Florida look bad because he wants to win an election. That's what you want me to do. I'm not a professional fan. I'm not a liar. I don't have no soul. I have a soul. I have a brain. I've done thousands of hours of reporting. You're asking me to lie and become an idiot in order to mold my mind to what a political candidate says. It's insane. I don't have to agree with DeSantis or Trump. I see the flaws in DeSantis and Trump. I'm not saying they're irrefutable and you can never make it, but when someone doesn't learn, it's like if you have a crackhead at your house and he just keeps smoking crack every day, and then 5 years later he's still smoking crack, and you say he's done smoking crack, forgive him. He's not done. You get what I'm saying? It's like with the issue that's most important to me, which is the COVID tyranny, and you could say it's not important to you. A lot of people don't care. I think it's the root of everything. Capitalism died when COVID came around. Freedom died when COVID came around. free market died when COVID came around. So I don't see it as this fringe passing issue. I see it as the biggest issue of the generation. And if people aren't, and all I'm asking for Trump is not to go back in time and do it right. I'm asking for him to look at all of the communism, all of the socialism, all of the tyranny, all of the vaccine scams, all of the everything, and just be like, it's not that great. Or just give me like something, not be like, I'm going to say that guy did what I did, and I'm going to just say that Florida people are dying. Like, that doesn't do it for me. I'm a voter. I get to vote how I want. You can't bully me into thinking like you. I think if we can't have a leader that can look at what happened, because everything that we liked left, everything great that Trump did pretty much got wiped away. All of his accomplishments of 2016 to 2019 got wiped away in 2020. So if you really want to get my vote, you got to look at that and be like, listen, that all wiped it away. These people did it. You can't find that, though. Find me the video where Trump says Fauci lied to me and Fauci sucks and he's really doing a terrible job. And I've seen more videos of him be like, call me Tony, telling Peter Navarro to shut up when Peter Navarro wrote an op-ed about Fauci. Like, I just don't see it that way. And honestly, the more I see people on social media, I'm reading opinions. I'm not stupid. I'm not fake. If you could show me something that I don't know and tell me the truth, then I'll be like, yeah, no, that makes sense. But nobody's making sense. I'm looking at some of the smartest influencers I follow, and they're just playing it safe, saying the most generic, basic thing that they think will keep them afloat in their social circles. I see the speech laws that DeSantis is passing in Israel, and Trump passes the same speech laws in America, and so does Joe Biden. I know that that's a policy that never changes, and there's not anybody running that seems to really care about that. Thomas Massey cares about that. Thomas Massey votes against it, and he's endorsing DeSantis. So, I'm not saying that changes my decision, but I know who I like. I know who I believe, and there's certain things that both are going to happen. It's like, do I want the banks to be revolutionized? I don't know if that's going to happen. Today, they said that Republicans were voting on spending or whatever, like Republicans are going to raise the debt ceiling. It's like, yeah, that's not a shocker to me. Like, anybody who thinks like Republicans are going to stick it to the left with the banks, they're not. You get what I'm saying? It's like they're going to do what the banks want them to do because the banks probably have more leverage over Republicans. So if Trump and DeSantis aren't going to do this, if Trump and DeSantis are exactly the same on this negative thing, I have to go on everything else: foreign policy, COVID policy, hiring, pragmatism, the ability to actually get stuff done and hire the right people in the cabinet. And I don't see what other people see. I'm willing to be convinced, but people can't convince me by just yelling at me. And someone said, how the hell can he sound like CNN when he pissed off CNN? Anthony, my friend, I'm going to explain it to you. From 2020 to 2023, okay? Just hear me out. I understand that Trump did a deal with CNN and went on CNN and fought CNN. I understand that. But you got to listen to me. From 2020 to 2023, CNN, MSNBC, all of liberal media, Democrats, they were trying to smear Florida because after a few months, Ron DeSantis became the vocal leader against lockdowns. I'm not saying he did a perfect job. He absolutely did it, and he deserves to be scrutinized. But I'm saying for years after he made a mistake, he became the leader who said, we're open for business, we're open for travel, we're open for vacation, and we're not California. What CNN, MSNBC, and Democrats did was they started painting false perceptions of the COVID data. They didn't tell people about the real death rate, the real case rate, how PCR tests work, how they're not even using PCR tests to test some people, and they're inflating these numbers like crazy without talking about the downsides of lockdowns and all of the physical ills that come along with treating people like slaves and prisoners. So they started saying, Death Santis. All these people are dying in Florida. But they weren't talking about per capita, which matters. They weren't talking about how many elderly people that were there. They weren't talking about excess mortality of people dying from other stuff. And they didn't talk about how loosely they were using the word COVID. So now Trump, who never used to say this a year ago, he just wants to beat DeSantis, he's now coming around and regurgitating the same propaganda that Democrats and CNN were saying. He's saying Florida killed more people than Cuomo. That's not true. He's not talking about per capita. He's not talking about other excess mortality. He's not talking about the average age. He's not talking about how they're testing. He's not talking about how they're counting. That if people actually cared to blow this COVID scheme out of the water, they tell you about PCR tests, how they're counting and how they're testing. Because once you get through all of that, the numbers don't actually matter or make sense that much. But he doesn't care because he's running around selling the product that is getting that is capitalizing off of all of these people being lost and confused. So he's doing and saying the exact same thing that CNN and Democrats used to say. He doesn't believe what he's saying. None of his supporters believe that. And all of them, you could probably find tweets from 2020 where they're disagreeing with CNN saying that everyone's dying in Florida, because everyone wasn't dying in Florida and their death rate wasn't that high when it comes to the metrics that matter. But you can lie with statistics and be like, New York has more people dying than Utah. Well, how many people are in New York and how many people are in Utah? If you don't even tell me the per capita and you just say that more people are dying in New York City than in, Sturgis, South Dakota. Yeah, of course. But that doesn't necessarily mean Sturgis is healthier. It means that there's 10 times, I don't know how many more people in New York City. So this is like the most generic, blatant lie that he's not explaining. So that, people could get mad at me all they want, but I'm authentic and I tell the truth. My whole life doesn't revolve around molding my mind to what DeSantis and Trump says. If DeSantis signs a speech law in a foreign country that I disagree with, I'm not going to cave. I'm not going to cave to the Republican establishment. I'm not going to cave to the organizations that are trying to smear me as a hate monger. I believe that that's not a way to stop hate or violence, and that's a way to infringe on American rights and make the matters worse. If BLM runs around and causes tension, I'm not going to say they're amazing because I don't want people to think I'm racist. I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't care what the cost is. And when Trump or DeSantis says something that I don't agree with, my job is not to be a professional PR team. Everybody else is a professional PR team for the guy. Nobody believes what they're saying. You listen to people who've made excuses for Trump, they're digging deep in their bag to trying to figure out why they're saying he's too old, he got fooled, he listened to his advisors, he doesn't know anything about vaccine injuries. None of those are even true. He knew about vaccine injuries in 2014, unless he just forgot. None of these excuses even make sense. It's like people that don't even believe what Trump's saying are so desperate to make an excuse for something they don't even believe that they're just making stuff up at this point. How does that make you a patriot or a hero? It just makes you like a professional, coattail rider of a politician. And the whole point of this stream is to tell people that you actually have the power over your life, not Trump or DeSantis. As far as my vote for Trump or DeSantis, I'm not pledging my vote to either of them. I want them to compete. And I'm trying to use my vote and my platform as leverage. Right now, I don't see DeSantis lying about many things besides the fact that he's running over to foreign countries, signing away our rights, which is insane. But it's not like Trump doesn't also do that. Trump also did that. He just didn't leave the country to sign it. With that being said, I want these guys to compete for me. DeSantis seems like he's taking the competition somewhat seriously. Trump is acting like a child. He's acting like CNN. He's just calling names. He's accusing him of things that he's also doing. That's not a way to win my vote. It might be a way to win your vote, and that's fine. Agree to disagree. If DeSantis wins the primary, I'm voting for DeSantis over Biden. If Trump wins the primary, I'm voting for Trump over Biden. I don't want Joe Biden. Whether it's Trump or DeSantis, I see the value in them when it comes to judges, Supreme Court stuff, and just rolling the dice. Border security, even if they do a half-assed job is better than no job. So I'm not one of these influencers that's crying. People act like I'm the problem. You know who the problem are? The people are like, I'm not going to vote if it's not Trump, or I'm not going to vote if it's not DeSantis. Then don't vote then. It's like, the election doesn't matter, but I'm going to complain about your opinions on the election. If it doesn't matter and it doesn't count, then why are you even tapping into a show that's talking about it? People believe that it matters and there's a way, or else they wouldn't be paying attention. So I'm just being honest about it. It's like, I have my perspective and I'm trying to use my leverage to get Donald Trump and DeSantis to compete for my vote. You get what I'm saying? Nobody else wants to do that. When Republicans made McCarthy flop like a fish for a few weeks and thinking he's going to get his nice little throne and he never got it, they got a few guarantees out of that, or so they claim. I don't know if it worked, but when you're just going to get the silver spoon and people take the silver spoon away from you for 2 weeks, it makes you work for it. I don't think Trump just deserves to win. I think he needs to work for it. I think he's done a terrible job over the last few years, and he's only getting worse every single year. And the reason he's getting worse is because nobody wants to challenge him. He's surrounded by a bunch of yes men and snakes, and you can't tell me that he has better people around him, because I'm watching his campaign, and his campaign is worse than 2016 or 2020. Which dingbat, opportunist loser that he has around him is like, yeah, Trump, just take CNN's Democrat COVID data talking points and use them against Trump. You know, you got to be a real buffoon to tell Trump to say that. So who's his brilliant, strategist telling him to take, like leftover MSNBC talking points about Florida COVID deaths? You know what I'm saying? This is a stupid campaign. Can he still win? Sure, but I'm not here for that. I want Republicans to win in 2024, but in the meantime, it's the primary. Play ball. DeSantis and Trump should be working for your vote. They should be trying to one up each other for what you want. And you should say, if you don't do that, we're going to hold you accountable. If you promise this, and this, and you don't do it, then, we're not going to just sit here and cheer at your rallies, or we're not going to sit here and say DeSantis is cool. We're going to remember you said that, and we're going to remember you didn't deliver, and we're going to cut the funding from you. That's, even DeSantis and Trump, besides the big donors, they still get tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars from people. If nobody likes them, they have no power without you. So use your vote as leverage for Trump and DeSantis. I'm doing that, and people act like I'm the bad guy because they don't understand how business and politics work. It's like they want to give these people a free pass, and I know why some people do it. Some people do it because they hang out at Mar-a-Lago. They're friends with Donald Trump. And to be honest, there's a lot of phony DeSantis supporters too, and they're the same type of person that hangs out at Mar-a-Lago. They just hang out with Donald Trump. They're saying things they don't believe just because they like DeSantis. Now, there's phonies on both sides. Don't think I don't see it. It's just like, this is how I feel. This is who I am. It's like, they need to work for our vote. They need to earn it. They need to show me that they've learned a lesson. I don't see it in Trump. I don't think he's learned. And I think he hasn't learned because he doesn't have to learn. Nobody's like, nah, dude, I'm not going to vote for you if you keep hiring swampers at the FDA, the HHS, the FBI. People are just like, I'll just make excuses for why you did it, and I'll just assume that you'll do it differently next time. Maybe that'll work, but I don't see it that way. They need to compete. This is a good competition. I don't believe for a second that this is dividing the party. It's dividing the party because people are afraid to challenge Donald Trump. And now that somebody's challenging Donald Trump, you see everybody's wah, wah, wah religion is getting shattered. They don't have an identity. They don't have common sense. They've lost critical thinking skills. All they know how to be is a fan, so they're melting down. And when it comes to the campaigns, of course, they should both jab at each other with things that make sense. But for the most part, DeSantis is sticking to what I'm going to do and Trump's shortcoming. And Trump is just like lying. He says some truth, but it's like, you had everybody dying in COVID and Cuomo did a good job. That's not what happened. Trump's not leaning into the truth to bash DeSantis. He's leaning left. He's leaning left and becoming more left to instead of attacking DeSantis from the right or head on. That's not my fault. You get what I'm saying? So, and if you want to vote for him and you like what he's doing, that's fine, my man. You're a very switched on smart man. Well, thank you, Shaquille. I'm not going to, if you want to vote your way and think what you're doing, it's fine. There's a lot of streams and people to listen to, but there's a lot of gems here. There's a lot of knowledge here. There's a lot of wisdom here. And either people could take it or leave it. I'm not begging for people to watch if it's like bad. It's like if I'm watching, American Idol and it sucks, I'm not yelling at the TV. I just click next. You could do the same thing. I appreciate everybody. It's not like I'm ungrateful. It's just like when people complain, they act like they have to listen to me, like you don't have to listen to me. There's millions of people on YouTube with different opinions. So you listen to this person thinks this person thinks this. This is what I think. And it's based on a lot of evidence and logic. And to be honest, you could take what I'm saying and put it up against what most people are saying. And what they're saying doesn't really stand the test. I'm not a dummy. There's times where I meet people, see people, talk to people, and they say something I've never thought of before. And I'm like, that's really smart. You know what I'm saying? I love when someone says something. I'm like, but most of the time with this type of stuff, nobody's saying anything interesting. So what I'm saying is the different, unique angle that's actually true. So every time I'm in an interview or a debate with someone and I bring this stuff up, they're like, no, I never thought of it that way. I'm like, I know you haven't, and that's okay. But The reason people haven't thought of it this way is because people aren't thinking anymore. And you have to understand there's winners and losers all over the place. But and I could be guilty at this at certain points in my career as well, in the sense of like I got a little too comfortable and I got a little too like, I would say I wasn't having fun and challenging myself a lot. But I think a lot of right-wing influencers, they got the clout, right? They got their position. They got their seat at the table. They got their speaking gigs and their corporate role or their seat in a political world. And they stopped challenging themselves. They stopped having debates with the right. And in fact, a lot of what woke me up to the false paradigm of Republicans and Trump was, or TPUSA, all these things, was 2019 when people were going to Charlie Kirk events from the right to ask questions, and Charlie's just calling them nasty names and he doesn't want to debate. That's when I realized, I'm like, the right is almost just an illusion where they do some stuff. I think Charlie Kirk is a, smart young guy who's doing stuff. It's not like he's doing nothing. He runs a great organization. But in general, it's like these people were not interested in getting challenged from the right. I saw that in 2019 when people started saying, Charlie, what about demographics? Charlie, what about the money we send to foreign countries? And Charlie's like, arr, and he started getting really mad. And I'm like, oh, I get it now. It's like a left-right thing. Like he wants like a 19-year-old liberal to say something stupid so he could dunk on them. But when it comes to someone intellectually challenging him from the right, he's not equipped for that type of stuff. And all the stuff that he said was so bad, a lot of those policies, Charlie eventually adapted for himself a year later. So the people that he shut down had an influence on him, whether he'll admit it or not, because he then took the stance that they had that he wasn't ready to really hear. So that's what a lot of right-wingers do. I'm not just blaming him, but they get the position and they just want the low-hanging fruit. They want the liberal to come in and say, I want to change my kid's gender. And then they'll be like, that's crazy. And then everyone claps and they think they're a hero. But if you intellectually challenge a lot of these conservative influencers from the right, their brain shuts off. They become the same NPC that they've spent fighting because they've never heard this stuff. 95% of right-wing influencers, I'll invite them on a debate. They can have a conversation. They don't want to debate me on this because they're not equipped to do that. They're equipped to just speak to people who agree with them and just say things that don't make sense to a small group of people that thinks it's true. If you put my ideas and their ideas to the chest, theirs are going to crack. So it's like, and if not, then it is what it is. We both become better people if I get outmatched. But in general, I think that's what's happening in the right-wing influencer sphere is they've capitalized off it. Nothing wrong with that. Get your money, get feed your family. I'm not knocking people's success. Have success. I'm not jealous or anything. Like, go get it. But, also remember what got you there. If you got there by saying the First Amendment's important, and then I say they're infringing on the First Amendment, and you say, well, I only want to talk about when Democrats are infringing on the First Amendment. And it kind of hurts my wallet to talk about Republicans infringing on the First Amendment. And I don't want to seem like a hate monger. It's like, well, you don't care about seeming like a hate monger when you call out George Floyd. You don't mind seeming like a hate monger when you call out Ilhan Omar, but you're afraid of the backlash of saying that the right wing's infringing on that. This is the type of stuff that we're dealing with in conservative influencer media. I've seen it since 2019. So I think that's what's happening with the Trump versus DeSantis. This has been 3 to 4 years of people basically coasting, dunking on the left, playing whack-a-mole with college students, and they haven't really been intellectually challenged of why they feel that way. And the only example that I could really, or not the only one, but the one I want to bring up is the excuses that people make for why Trump is overselling the vaccine and refuses to acknowledge vaccine injuries. One of the main excuses people say is that he doesn't know. I mean, Candace got in a little bit of trouble for saying it. She tried to, go out on a limb and defend Trump, and Trump got mad at her because he felt it was a diss when it was really Candace trying to help him. But in general, she's just like, he doesn't know that much. He just watches TV and like, the truth is that's not real. Like, Trump knows about vaccine injuries. He talked about it in 2014 on Twitter, and he met with RFK saying we have to do something about vaccine injuries. Trump does know about vaccine injuries, but people don't want to counter him or challenge him. So they've created this fake narrative to make excuses for him and make excuses for something that they don't personally believe because their allegiance is to Team Red, not to the truth and not to the country. So that's just one example of how, people, once they've met somebody that actually challenges them, they usually, like when I had Candace on, She was like, no, that makes sense. She was super receptive to it. She's like, I didn't know that. I never heard that part, but maybe, that could be true. But like, you got 100 influencers that are just saying something. And it's like, maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's like, maybe you guys just keep saying that. It's very odd to me, it's very odd that if DeSantis says something, people will tell you what they believe. If Mitt Romney says something, people will tell you what they believe. If Hillary says something, people will tell you what they believe. If Trump says something, people will try to figure out why it makes sense, even if they don't believe it. And that's where their loyalties lies, to trying to figure out why they now either don't believe it, but understand it. Or so he has this fascinating spell over people. John said in the comment, Trump. Vote for him, knock yourself out. But I mean, this is like the type of energy that you have left. It's just like la 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 la. It's like, sure, dude. How old are you? I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like you got 60-year-olds acting like kindergartners. They're on Twitter being like, I'm not voting if you don't have my way. I poop my pants. I poopy in my fancy for Trump. And it's like, okay, dude, that's fine. Rock out, dude. Buy another hat. Wear it around town. Woo! It's all good. Let me see. Someone said Trump 2024. It's like no one has a counter to anything I said. They're just like, bloop. They're like, yeah, 2024. Who cares about any of that stuff? I just like it. I like getting lied to. It's like, okay, dope. Someone said chanting your mantra. Okay. It's like, I just had like 10 minutes of like just raw truth. And people were like, I'm just going to say someone's name 1,000 times in a row. It's like, oh, I want to do this real quick. I forgot about this, but okay. This is interesting because Chat GPT, if you guys know Chat GPT, it's some like AI bot. It's sadly like more human than most humans. And I want to read the example. So because Chat GPT makes more sense than like 99% of people. It's really sad. But when I say this stuff on Twitter and I'm like, if you like this person, does it mean you like DeSantis or you love this country or you love Biden? Like, people always act like that. If you're not red, you're blue. If you do this, you must be this. Like, people have this binary thinking. So I asked ChatGPT and my friend typed it in, and listen to how intelligent the response is from ChatGPT. Okay. It says, does skepticism of Trump equal Biden support? And the question was, if someone, my friend typed this in, if someone says that they think Trump is kind of sketchy and became a jab salesman, does that mean they love Biden? Because like thousands of people be like, why don't you vote for Biden then? Here's what ChatGPT says. It says, not necessarily. Expressing skepticism or criticism of one political figure does not automatically imply support or admiration for another. It's possible for someone to have reservations about both Donald Trump and Joe Biden, or to hold mixed opinions about different political leaders. People's political views can be complex and nuanced, and it's important to engage in open and respectful discussions to understand that their perspectives better. Can you believe that ChatGPT said that? That's smarter and more reasonable and more logical than 90% of people that freak out when I say something. And we followed it up. I'm going to read another one. It says, this is ChatGPT responding to that. It said, saying Trump's a bit sketchy doesn't automatically make you a Biden cheerleader. Politics is like a buffet. You can have a taste of skepticism without committing to the whole spread. Political palate, hashtag. Calling Trump a jab salesman doesn't mean you're Biden's biggest fan. Politics is like a choose your own adventure novel. You can question one character without declaring loyalty to another. I think that was it, making tweets about it. It's pretty wild. So that's ChatGPT, and AI, artificial intelligence. You could ask it any question, it gives an answer. When I ask people this, they say, I remember a year ago, people are like, if you don't agree with everything Trump says, what do you like, Biden? And I'm like, no. And it's crazy to me because I'm trying to figure out if this is even real. Like, I know that not everybody is like a genius or anything, but it's like, I genuinely think people are pretty smart. And sometimes the smartest people don't even have college degrees. They're just like good at fixing stuff. And, there's different types of intelligence, fighter IQ, etc. But I'm like, are people really this dumb? And I'm not trying to act like I'm so smart, but it's like, if I say the truth of what I believe and it's literally true, but this guy disagrees with it because he's a politician, and then people come to me and they're like, "You what do you want, Biden?" And it's like, "No." And then it's like Trump versus DeSantis. Okay, is there a way to be yourself and give an opinion about both of them while saying who you want to logically vote for or how you want them to compete, and you'll make your decision at the end of the competition? Right now you're not sold on Trump and you want to see a little more from him. Is there a way to say that without people saying you're sold out or you're right? Like, I don't think people are as smart as ChatGPT. I know ChatGPT is just kind of like, calculating what everybody else has already said, so it's not like necessarily smart, but that answer is reasonable. It's like, no, you can disagree with that person and disagree with that, and it doesn't make you a fence sitter. I don't know like what people do. Like, as far as a vote, if you're going to vote, yeah, you have one vote and I have one vote. And at the end of the day, what you say doesn't actually matter. Um, it's like how you vote matters. And that's the part that really matters. With me, I do news analysis and content. So if people want me to just like be Trump, I could just be Trump. I could say, like, a lot of people do that, they think what he thinks, they says what he says. Like, for instance, like someone like Terrence Williams, super funny guy, nice guy. I've talked to Terrence. I've tried to help him with some of his projects and stuff. I like Terrence Williams, but I don't think he'll ever disagree with Donald Trump. If Trump says I like blue, he'll say I like blue. If he says I like red, he'll say I like red. If Trump says this, he'll say this. If Trump says this, he'll make like. I don't think there's a lot of influencers that's just who they are. They are Trump. They don't have huge political opinions. They just like Trump, and whatever he says or does is the way they're going, and that's just how they are. With that being said, that's not what I do. There's lots of people like that. They don't have their own like thing outside of like, that's my guy, and I don't really want to question anything that he thinks. I do news analysis, journalism, video analysis. So I'm doing dozens of videos on COVID reporting, and I'm crunching the numbers, and I'm getting hundreds of millions of views because my videos were some of the best videos during COVID. I'm putting in the work. I'm telling people the truth. I'm showing people why it's true. I'm giving exact proof. It's things that even left wingers couldn't even disagree with because it's so blaringly obvious, even though they semi didn't like it. But you get what I'm saying? It's like, my job is not like, oh, I'm dumb now and I have wrong opinion because Trump or DeSantis says it. No, that's not what I do. But I get that's what everyone else does, or most people do that. So people want that. They want someone to just tell them what they want to hear. I get there's a market for that, but it's just like, I don't understand why people even want that. It's just weird. Like if you follow Cat Turd is just Trump. He's just like a guy who likes Trump, who says everything Trump says. If Trump says the vaccine saved 100 million lives, he'll make an excuse for it or not talk about it. If Bill Gates said that, he'd be posting about it saying how bad Bill Gates. He doesn't have actual stances on stuff. It's just like, I like Trump. I'm conservative. I like Trump. And my whole world revolves around supporting him, defending him, making excuses for him, slobbering over him. That there's a lane for that. Someone said I love Cat Turd. I'm not surprised. 10 times out of 10, when people get mad at me on Twitter, their last 5 retweets are from Cat Turd. Just 100% Trump, 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 and no analysis or scrutiny of anything else going on. And if Trump says a talking point about DeSantis, Cat Turd will just repeat it. It doesn't matter if he's thought about it or if it's true or not. Where if DeSantis says something, 9 times out of 10, I don't listen to I don't really care what DeSantis says unless it's true. I'm not waiting for DeSantis to say something to say stuff. If he says something I agree with, I'm like, oh, that's cool. But I'm not. But like people like Cat Turd, it's like he's waiting for Trump to watch the rally to share it. Like, that's it's what he does. That's fine, but it's like that. You're not gonna have critical thinking skills if you follow accounts like that and you don't follow anyone else besides that. But it's cool though. And I understand that people rock with it, but this is my perspective and analysis. If you like it, appreciate it. If not, I won't hold it against you. God bless you. There are pages for that type of stuff. I'm not even trying to be like rude about it now. If, to those who are watching, if they're like, yo, I actually like that type of stuff. It's like, then you can follow that, but you can't come to my page and like want that. That's not what I do. It's never what I've done. I would say what I do is far more impressive and takes a lot more thinking and research and stuff. But if you want to just go with that, it's available for you. I just don't know why people would come here and expect that here. That doesn't make sense. Let me see. Someone said meatball Ron or Ron to meatball. I mean, you're just making me hungry now because every time I hear that, I'm part Italian, so I just think of like a good meatball parmesan or something. But you can call him what you want. It doesn't really matter to me. He's a meatball. His name is Ron. He looks like a meatball. Look at him, Patriots. You're getting very sleepy. Ron looks like a meatball. He's a meatball. He killed people with COVID. He's worse than Cuomo with the COVID, and he looks like a meatball. Cat turd. It's like, oh, meatball Ron really stuck it to him at the rally. It's kind of funny when you don't get annoyed at it. Like I was having a blast the other night on Twitter. It probably seems like I'm just always pissed off, but I'm actually like having a hilarious time. I got to just stay off Twitter because I start debating with someone and it seems like I'm pissed and I'm not. Sometimes I do, but most of the time I'm just thinking it's funny. Chicken parm Ron. Ron's a big meatball. He looks like a chicken parm sandwich. Listen, at Mar-a-Lago, we used to sell chicken parm, but we're much better than that. Now we sell tacos for Cinco de Mayo because we love Mexicans. We build a wall and they could come legally. Just come legally. Build a wall, eat a taco at Trump Tower, show your vaccine passport in New York City for a few years because that's how they roll, and we'll move on. Someone said the best thing DeSantis did was appoint an actual surgeon general. He helped the freedom movement globally and COVID truth. I agree, Linda. I saw Cernovich, who I like as a person, but Cernovich was like, DeSantis and Trump are equal on COVID. And I'm like, I don't see it that way. I think DeSantis has crushed Trump for a few reasons. They both made mistakes at the beginning. There's no question about it. DeSantis wasn't perfect. He didn't keep Florida open the entire time. That's not true. I agree with that. But then you look at when DeSantis opened, when he opened schools, he made a lot of mistakes even after that. But you look at the fact that he hired a surgeon general who was a true outsider taking on big pharma. That never happened in the Trump administration. You look at the fact that he changed his rhetoric and his leadership like pretty quickly, not quick enough, but quicker than Trump. And Trump still hasn't changed it. I think it's a lie to say that they're the same on COVID. DeSantis hiring Joseph Ladapo and Trump hiring, Jerome Adams. Dude, Jerome Adams, the Surgeon General under Trump, is one of the biggest losers ever. He blocked me on Twitter a year and a half ago, and he's now tweeting that COVID's just the tip of the iceberg. Trump's Surgeon General is like almost worse than Fauci and Bill Gates on this type of rhetoric. You get what I'm saying? He's like, it's just the tip of the iceberg. Like, bro, even like the liberals aren't even saying that anymore. Like, that guy sucks. So I think as a voter, it's your right to be like, are you going to hire people like that again? How am I the only influencer that thinks this way? It's like, if I'm hanging out at Mar-a-Lago, which I'll never get to anymore, but in general, it's like, are you going to hire someone like Jerome Adams again? Because DeSantis hired a way better guy. Like, is that too much to ask for as a voter or an influencer? But I don't think you get that close to Trump if you ask questions like that. I think you have to prove your loyalty, which is just not saying anything. Like, it's like if you tell someone like you got sauce on your face, most people would be like, yeah. I feel like Trump would be like, you're fired. My face looks great. You're a third-rate Republican. The CARES Act is really good. How dare you tell? Like, that's like what loyalty to me. Loyalty is like, yo, you got sauce on your face. Your face looks fat. That's loyalty, not like, anomaly. You might be 700 pounds, but you look 100 pounds to me. It's like, it's not true. Someone said, if Trump didn't wake up your generation about politics, you wouldn't even have a gig. LOL. You could think that, but if Trump runs around selling vaccines and pushing Democrat COVID propaganda, should I be like, I need to lie now too, because Trump told me something I didn't know in 2017. I knew about banking. I knew about Rothschilds. I knew about both parties being controlled in 2008. I dropped songs about it in 2009, 2010. I saw the media was corrupt before I even cared about Trump and started reporting on it. And that, as far as conservative values, the Trump movement, America, conservative values, Christianity, definitely brought me closer to it. And I appreciate it. But I have to say, I'm not an idiot. So this idea, if Trump wasn't there, I wouldn't have been liberal my whole life. You might think I would be, but I didn't even, when Bernie ran against Hillary, I never had to like actually pay a lot of taxes. I didn't make any money. I didn't have my own health care. That was a huge wake up call for me. It was when I had to pay health care. If Bernie Sanders is telling me we're doing it for the 1%, 1%, the 1%, everybody, we're going to take that money. And then I'm broke and I have to pay $3,000 a year under the individual mandate of California. That woke me up. I was like, I'm not rich and I got to pay all this money. Like Bernie didn't tell me this. So I think eventually as I turned 26, 27, I would have became conservative anyway because I'm not a moron. Most people do grow up and learn like basic economics at a certain point. So I don't think I have to just lie and be like a phony now just because Donald Trump was president when I woke up to conservative values. But if that's like, I don't know, I appreciate what he's done. I really do. It's like saying Michael Jordan should be in the NBA finals right now. He's just not who he used to be. I love Michael Jordan. I think he's one of the greatest ever, but Michael Jordan can't play on a court right now with the players because he's not who he used to be. And to me, Trump is the same way as that. I didn't ask him to be. I don't think he has to be. He's chosen this path of who he's decided to be, and I'm not into it. I'm not interested in it. I'm not interested in pretending to myself that it's the same when it's not. I don't see it that way. If you do, that's fine, but blind loyalty to a politician who isn't what they pretended to be isn't loyalty to your country or loyalty to your family. I think your loyalty has to be to your country, your family. If you're a constitutional conservative, the Constitution. If you're a Christian, to Christ. I think these things are more important than, like if he does socialism and sells vaccines, that now you're like, well, he taught me something 3 years ago, so now that's my whole life has to be that. It's like some people feel that way. Others don't, I'm not trying to hurt the guy. I'm not trying to like banish the guy out of the country like he's Socrates or something. I just don't want to vote for him right now. Is that okay? I will if he wins the primary. I will if he can convince me in the next year that he's better. But it's like it's not like I'm like I hate this guy. Like Trump is going to be rich, successful, famous. I'd even go to a stand-up comedy show that he was at or a conservative event that he's speaking at that I want to go chat and take videos and network at. But as far as like it's not like I hate the guy and I have like zero loyalty to it. It's just like he's running for president. He's lying about COVID. He's lying about vaccines. He takes no accountability. He asked Chris Christie who to hire and doesn't even seem like he thinks that's a bad idea in any sort of the means. My job is not to be dumb. I get people think like their job is just to act stupid. I guess that's one way to do it. It's fascinating, but I don't see politics that way. I don't think it's a like just sit on the sidelines and act dumb. I think it's like the truest form of love could be challenging somebody. Like, for instance, the other 2 days, my camera was messed up. I asked people if it was messed up, and some people said it was fine. That's not loyalty. I know people didn't mean to say that. They probably just thought it looked fine on their phone or whatever. But my camera was messed up. I wanted people to tell me, like, why is my quality so low? I got to fix it. Like loyalty would not be to say, Anomaly, you look 4K. It looks amazing. That's not loyalty. That's dishonest, like, bootlicking. At that point, you're just telling me that everything's perfect when it's really not. I don't consider that loyalty. It's like someone said, fun fact, Chris Christie wears a huge man diaper. We can't confirm that. Chris Christie says he doesn't. No, I'm just kidding. Chris Christie's like, listen, I don't wear a diaper. I just tell Trump who to hire and he listens. It's like, okay, dude. Jeez, I was just kidding. Does Dianne Feinstein wear a diaper though? We don't know. Does Joe Biden wear a diaper? No one knows. But if I had to guess, I would be shocked if Dianne Feinstein didn't wear a diaper. What is she like? I got to look it up. How old is Dianne Feinstein? 89 years old. 89. 89. Wow. That's wild. It's incredible that she lasted that long in Congress. God bless her. But when San Francisco looks like San Francisco does, it's time to step down. And someone said I shouldn't. I'm not insulting. I'm just saying most people over that age, it's hard. It's gets pretty hard to not wear a diaper. You know what I'm saying? It would be like saying you're insulting a baby. You're like, I bet that baby wears a diaper. It's like, oh, why you hate that baby? It's like, I'm not hating. It's just like babies wear diapers. Old people sometimes wear diapers. Like you start hitting the 90s, the hundreds. Like if you don't, that's cool. You're just freeballing it. But if you do, no shame in the game. It's just like San Francisco is a mess. You know, I just saw Shannon Sharp's house got robbed. When I was on a cruise, Jojo Siwa's house got robbed in Los Angeles. San Francisco, like these cities are a mess. And then you got 89-year-olds. Like, dude, politics is so wild. It's the only thing. I don't know if an age limit is necessarily the right thing, but like people shouldn't vote for older people. I don't know. I'm not trying to like be ageist, but who runs a company past like 80? Maybe if you're like super with it to like 85, nobody's doing high level positions when they're 89. Even Vince McMahon is selling his company, stepping down a little bit. He's not even that old. But at a certain point, he'll probably pass on the reins when he feels comfortable, or at least take a smaller position. Like how are these people even doing it? You know, you got Joe Biden's almost 80. Trump's going to be 80. Like, and then in this movement, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Like Trump's never done anything, but like, I feel like there's some people who just never want him to go away. They'd vote for him till he was 150. You know, it's like, I feel like they're afraid that their whole world and, you know, it all goes when he goes. So it's like, what's going to happen? I don't know. Ask somebody from the 50s what happens when their leader gets, someone else has to become the new leader. Like, I don't know. Someone younger needs to like become the next guy. We can't ride this train forever. Or can we? I don't know. People still like Reagan. Did anybody that was alive then was Reagan like that? Did people like Reagan for like 50 years after Reagan? Was it like we need 8 terms of Reagan, then Reagan's kid? It's like, was it like that? Sounds like I would vote for Trump, then Trump Jr., then Barron Trump. I've heard that several times. I would vote for Barron. I don't care if he even like he's a secret wizard. That's the only conspiracy theory I believe in. Barron Trump's 1,000 feet tall and he's the smartest person in the world. Is that true? Probably not, but it's fun to say. Let me see. Someone said Fountain of Youth. I don't know. It's not up to me. Ramona said, Trump is still functioning at the highest levels. You know this, and so do we. Sharp is attacked, so stop the bashing. He's no Joe. This is how psychotic people get around the guy. Did I say he's a piece of garbage? He's so dumb. I hate him. No, I said he's really old, and it's not ideal. And is he smart as attack? I mean, yeah, he's really energetic, but when he's up on stage saying CNN COVID talking points about Florida, I don't think he's really that sharp anymore. He's sharper than most. He's still funny. He still can do a debate, but he's not honest anymore. Is that his age or is that his ethics? I don't know. But I don't think he's the same person he was 4 years ago. But I'm not saying he's like the worst person in the world or the oldest person I've ever seen at his age, but like, I don't know. It's like watching a fighter into their 40s and it's like, it's not going to be the same fighter. Yeah, you still love him. You know, Fedor fought when he was like 45, 46. He's one of the greatest fighters ever. He got knocked out in 2 minutes. Yeah, Trump can still compete with Joe Biden. He could still compete with DeSantis because people don't care what he says or does. They just like him so much and believe in him that literally it's like they've already made their decision. Yeah, he wins for that reason. But as far as we'll see, you know, being young doesn't necessarily make you charismatic or interesting. I'm sure Jerry Seinfeld could go on stage at 90 and crush more than most comedians, but I don't know. People are so sensitive. It's like you can't even say no. 8, like I bet if Trump wasn't there and I was like, yo, 80's a little old, people would be like, no, for sure. And then I'm like, 80's a little old. They're like, well, why are you bashing him? I'm not. I'm just saying. Someone said takes courage to admit. Thank you for having the courage to face reality. I don't know any other way. Honestly, I think it's harder to just make stuff up all the time. Like I would imagine some of these influencers, they're like, yo, why, like, who am I? You know, like after they're like, who am I? Like, what do I believe? Why am I saying this stuff? Like, how long do I want to do this? Am I trying to sell? Sell what? No. Did I just see the Pride can? It wasn't just one can, which we knew. No, I didn't. But is it Bud Light or something? I mean, everybody's gay now. I mean, they do it all at once, so you can't really like boycott because it's like, you know, everyone is gay at once. It's like NBA, NHL, you know, they're like, surprise, we're all gay for a month now. And you're like, damn it, I can't boycott everything. I think it comes down to how good the product is too. I mean, I'm not saying ethically, but in general, it's like if Apple does something super gay that you don't like or whatever, and conservatives want to boycott it, it's a lot harder to boycott Apple if you have a cell phone and a computer than it is to boycott Bud Light. Bud is easy to boycott. There's other beer. Bud Light is not that much better than every other beer that it's like, oh, I really need to drink this. Like nobody really needs to drink Bud Light, not before or after. I'm not trying to shit on them when they're down, but like Bud Light does not taste that good. To me, at least. I don't know. With that being said, like that's an easy product to boycott. Target, it's a little more difficult, especially if you live in a remote location, but Target is also pretty easy to boycott right now. If you have Amazon, Target's actually really easy to boycott. So, but it's like Apple, it's harder to boycott in my view. Amazon is harder to boycott. I don't know. Someone said Sam Adams is the best beer. To each their own. I'm just trying to say Bud Light's not a hard product to boycott. You know, you're not like losing that much. It's like, I got to get a new computer. I don't like this Windows. It's like, no, just pick up a Yingling or, like whatever. Like pick up I'm sure like Daily Wire will do like a Ben Shapiro beer, or like a Jeremy Boring beer, and not knocking it. That's a good business model. You just pick up where the left, I should do it if I had more of a, a machine behind me, but it's like, listen, my wife's a doctor. So me and my wife went in the lab and we've constructed the most powerful beer. It doesn't have any mRNA in it. We've realized that that's not what we thought it was. It's okay. But we have Shapiro beer, and Jeremy Boring has a boring beer. There's nothing less boring than drinking a boring beer. You drink a boring beer, now the boring event is not boring, or it is boring, but not boring as you know it, boring with the E, because Jeremy, that's his last name. So we're not trying to say that you're going to have a boring night, but you're going to have a boring night. So welcome to I just gave them $1 million idea. Boring beer, by Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring. Listen, it's going to be a really boring night, but I'm not saying the boring you're thinking of. I'm talking about like his last name Boring, which is a really fun last name if you really think about it. You're like, I mean, it makes sense to me. I'll take 1,000 cases. I'm trying to fight the radical rainbow agenda. Give me that boring beer now. I want it. I want 1,000 chocolate. It's like, I asked the ingredients. I wasn't even trying to like piss on their parade or anything. I just like genuinely, as a consumer, I don't just buy food that I don't know what's in it. And I'm like, what's in the chocolate? And people were like, screw you, Democrat. Screw you. I don't care if it's wood. I'll take 15 boxes. And I'm like, damn, this is why. This is why people do so much to conservatives, because it's so easy. It's like, I'd eat my own shit if I had to fight the left. And it's like, dude, this is why so many like politicians just like crap all over Republicans and like walk all over them, because that's like the dynamic. They're like, you could do anything and just tell them you're fighting the left and people will support it. Like, it's a smart business model. It's like, here's my chocolate, and I'm not trying to be like a guy. I'm just like, yo, what's in it? Because I'm considering buying it. What's in the screw you, you piece of garbage. This is patriotic Shapiro chocolate, and I don't give a crap what's in it. I'm buying 15 boxes, and I'm buying 10 boxes for my daughter when she goes to liberal college, which she's going to come back and hate me and lose all the values I taught her because I want her to get a good education, but I don't want her to get vaccinated, but I made her get the vaccine because she wanted to do gymnastics, Anomaly. So that's how we're going to beat the left, by vaccinating my kid, sending her to a liberal college so she cuts off her hair, hates herself, and grows out her armpit hair. And I'm going to give her Shapiro boring beer and 50 boxes of boring chocolate. And I don't care if it tastes like dirt. I'm buying it, Anomaly. I don't care what the ingredients are. Okay, I do. So I just asked. But if you don't, that's fine. It was a wild phenomenon. I'm trying to like support their business. I'm not trying to out them or make them look unhealthy. I'm like, what? It was a genuine question. I can't find it on the website. They showed me, and the ingredients turned out that they didn't seem that bad. They actually seem pretty solid compared to like Hershey's and stuff. So I have no problem with it. Mr. Beast chocolate is not that bad either. He has decent ingredients, compared to the alien ingredients they have in like mainstream chocolate. If you compare the Mr. Beast chocolate or the like Ben Shapiro, boring chocolate or whatever it's called, the straight chocolate, your chocolate's gay as hell. My chocolate's straight. You eat my chocolate, women are going to flock all over you unless you're a woman. Then men are going to flock all over you unless you're married. Then your marriage is just going to be way better than it was. And you're both going to be more loyal and attracted to each other. That's how straight my chocolate is. But anyway, it's like those ingredients in that chocolate and the other one are way better. Like, you read what's in some of these mainstream chocolates and it's like weird ingredients in some cases that they don't even allow in Europe. They got certain food dyes in mainstream chocolates like M&Ms. They don't even allow those food dyes in Europe because they're known to cause issues over there. But here, feed them up. It's pretty wild. With or without nuts, it's pretty good marketing. Oh, it's great marketing. Yeah, you got it. They crushed that. I'm cracking up at people that were mad when I wanted to know the ingredients. But yeah, I mean, what they're doing is super smart. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of resources. They have a lot of network. They're using it. It's nothing wrong with it. I think Clay Travis tried to do something. As far as the business, I'm not a hateful or jealous person. Like, oh, they shouldn't capitalize. Why not? If there's chocolate making your kids gay, why not let Ben Shapiro make your kids straight with his chocolate? Like, nuts or no nuts. It's definitely a genius marketing ploy to like lean into it and give people probably slightly better products or better ingredients, better pizza, not Papa John's, because apparently he's a racist or something. I'm not saying he is, but they said he was. Or what did he say, the N-word one time or something on the phone? I don't even know. Maybe was he like rapping along to a song? He's like, yo, that's my, and then they film it. He's just drunk at a party singing along to Nelly. He's like, andale, andale, mama, ia, ia, oh. And then they're like, what did you just say? He's like, I got hyped up. I was listening to Manny Fresh and, Birdman. I was listening to Big Timers. Gator boot. I said it by mistake. And someone filmed. It's like, I don't know what happened to Papa John, but I just remember like, Papa John, racist. He's like, he's just like crying. I didn't mean to. I was hyped up off my Bud Light. I was just drinking Bud Light, eating Hershey's, just trying to fit in with the kids. I don't know. I did a TikTok dance and said a word. I was really drunk. That's actually not at all what happened. I'm just like riffing off it. I don't know. You could Google what happened to Papa John, but I'm pretty sure they replaced him. Unfortunate, he had a good run selling, mediocre pizza to the masses for really low prices. Good business, man. People like that, Jimmy John, these people struck gold with these chains. Not a hater. I think business is interesting, but anyway, God bless you guys. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you guys. And I'll be back soon. Thank you to everybody on YouTube that became a subscriber. Some shows I will unveil the subscribers and let other people comment, but for the most part, it's a little experiment I've been doing, because it's not that I don't want people to talk, because honestly on whatever. Facebook, people say stuff I disagree with and that slightly annoy me all the time. It's whatever. But on YouTube specifically, people would spam all the time. And it would just like they take up the whole screen and be annoying to an extent that people don't really do that much on Facebook. And when I changed it back 2 days ago, and I did like everybody could comment on YouTube. I had one guy in there complaining, being annoying, saying stuff, and then like demanding things from me. And just, it was like so cringe where I'm like, when I turn on the subscriber thing, people don't do that. It's not like I can't handle criticism but like, it's just like the spammy people that just like comment 15 times and expect like they act like I'm their Uber driver dropping off an order to their house or something. It's like, bro, you could suggest something, you could ask questions, you can disagree with me, but it's like, if you're just going to like spam 1,000 things and then demand like it's like anomaly, jump, sit down. I'm like, yes sir. It's like, dude, on YouTube at least you could pay $2.99 a month for that. If you're gonna demand that I hop, skip, and jump for you, the least you could do is subscribe. But is what it is. Appreciate you guys. I had a fun day today. John ended it with Trump. I'm gonna read them all for you, John. Okay, he said, Trump 24X. I read it for you, John. Those were all the Trumps. So, who are you going to vote for, DeSantis or what? Are you voting for Nikki Haley? I can't tell. Let me know in the comments who you're voting for, John, because I got like a mixed signal from that. I'm not really sure which campaign you're supporting, but either way. Hopefully, America does not have Joe Biden again. That would be horrific. But remember, if it happens, we don't have to take accountability for anything. We could always just blame the Democrats and act like we did nothing wrong. That's the trend. God bless you guys. Someone said I'm on Xanax or Ritalin. I'm totally sober, having a wonderful day, drinking water, not on Ritalin, not on Xanax. I don't take Ritalin or Xanax. I'll let you know if I'm under some sort of substance one time. I mean, probably not, but I'm not. I don't do that. Last time people said I'm on cocaine because my energy was like weird. Today people think I'm having such a good time. I have to be on drugs. This is called sobriety. This is called just grabbing life by the horns and making the most of your job. It's like if you see like an Amazon driver just like sing like, I had one guy I saw, he was like, making my way downtown, walking fast, faces passing, I'm on now. Like he was like blasting that. Imagine if I just looked at him. I'm like, yo, are you on cocaine? He's like, no, I'm just singing along to, Vanessa, whatever her name is, Vanessa Carlton. Is that okay? You're like, oh, what are you on, Adderall? You're like, no, I'm just enjoying my day working. Like, I can't have a good day once in a while. It's got to be some sort of pharmaceutical pill in me. People are conditioned to think that you can't be happy or have fun or act wild without a pharmaceutical. That's that 50% of these ads are just pharma. It's like you can't have fun without pharma. It's the opposite. They lull you to sleep. People on Xanax are not having this much fun. People on Xanax are like passing out. If I did Xanax, I'd pass out midstream. If I ever just like fall asleep. What? Wait. What were we saying? Oh yeah, Joe Biden sucks. The economy sucks. And we need to make America great again, damn it. If I ever do that, then you could accuse me of being on Xanax. But if I'm just having a good time, I mean, you could say what you want, but it's not true. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one. I'll be back soon. And Dream Rare Podcast is available on Spotify, Apple, Podbean, and everywhere podcast is found, including Rumble. Shout out Rumble. They're doing a great job of uploading my videos quicker. I complain to them like a Karen. Call me Karen Anomaly. And I say, wow, you're not uploading my videos. It takes 3 days. What's the point of using Rumble? And they come in and say, they fixed the problem. Rumble actually cares about me, unlike Facebook, Meta. Terrible customer service. I have 800 million views. It's my main source of income. Terrible customer service at Meta. Terrible. Rumble, they listen. They don't probably like me that much, but that's okay. But they upload my videos faster. So now my podcasts are available on Rumble extremely quickly, much quicker than they were. Much, much quicker. Used to be slow like Joe. Now it's really fast. It's really, really fast, like a cheetah driving a Tesla. Anyway, appreciate you guys. Someone said I'm unmedicated and it's dangerous. I'm unmedicated and dangerous. Yeah, I hear you, Jody or Joni. Appreciate you. All right, I'm out. God bless. I'll see you soon. Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, freedom versus tyranny shirts, stay blessed long sleeve, God is great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the shop to support. Everything's made in the United States. Handpicked by me. Patreon.com/raretalk. For $5 a month, you can help support me, support the show. If you haven't noticed, unlike other channels, I don't work with very many sponsors, sometimes none at all. And part of the way I'm able to do that is with the dreamrare.com shop and patreon.com/raretalk. So thank you guys for keeping this show free, unimpeded, uninterrupted. I'm forever grateful. My free email list is stayintouchwithme.com. So check the links below in the description or just type in on any browser, stayintouchwithme.com, all one word. You'll find my email list, put it in there, and it's the least annoying email list you'll ever be on. I barely use it because I don't like getting emailed every day or every week. It's annoying. So I don't do it. Stayintouchwithme.com. It helps me take back some power away from big tech. Telegram, t.me/dreamrarechat or @dreamrarechat. Due to censorship, I post all my live stream and videos there. Sometimes I have some bonus content, and I try to give people a heads up when Facebook or YouTube won't. DreamRareChat at Telegram. My Instagram is @DreamRare. Thanks for everybody following there for shorter content. And DreamRareLinks.com. That's DreamRareLinks.com. Has all my stuff. My podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, my music on Spotify and Apple, my Rumble page, my BitChute and Gab page. All my links are found at DreamRareLinks.com. Thanks for watching, folks. God bless you. You already know I'll be back with more content soon. Appreciate you.